center for the USC Trojans, D'Anton Lynn. D'Anton, thanks for coming on. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. We were just talking about best Lionel Richie songs. Do you have any thought on that?
That's a little before my time, man. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
That's right. I forget. You are you have just flown through coaching ranks. You turned UCLA's defense around. Last year, you turned USC's defensive around. What kind of magic do you got going, Coach?
Man, I don't know about that, man. It's all about the players, and I've been lucky to have a really good staff in both spots. That we were all on the exact same page, and our biggest thing was let's just try to be better this year than we were the previous year.
The defense, when you arrived, Coach, frankly had a lot of work to be done, a lot of areas to shore up. When you started approaching it, was there a particular thing that you decided, I need to drill down on this first before I even start getting to X, Y, and Z?
Definitely the defensive front. You know, and it was just with the style of ball we wanted to play on defense with the schematic change, but also going from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. You know, it was all about the front seven and trying to get that as big and physical as possible, because when you can win up front, a lot of stuff behind the front will take care of itself.
So it's interesting now as we move into this season. The one thing last year, and I was at all your home games, and I'm a huge USC fan. The losses were so hard, they were so tough, they were so close. Is there something that you've taken from that, and something that your players have taken from that?
Absolutely. So you go back and you look at all those games, and first off, it starts with the coaching staff, starting with me. You know, are we putting them in the correct call for those situations? And then it's going down to the players, you know, just doing the small things right. And when we get in moments like that, just don't do anything different than you've done all game. If all 11 guys just do their job, a lot of times we're going to like the end result. And I just think that there were times where we could have put them in better positions, and then there were times where guys felt like, you know what, I need to do this instead of doing what I'm supposed to do.
You mentioned the transition to the Big Ten, and obviously you have time as well with UCLA. Like, what are some of the biggest differences you notice from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten and where SC is right now?
Well, in the Pac-12, you know, you're going to have a couple fistfights a year. You know, you're going to play Utah, but then you might have 2 or 3 weeks of spread finesse ball before you have your next fistfight against Oregon State. And then you're going to have another 2 or 3 weeks of spread ball before you play Arizona. Whereas in the Big Ten, you know, it's going to be a fistfight every single week. It doesn't matter if you're playing Ohio State down to Northwestern. Every single team in the Big Ten, they're big up front, they're physical up front, and they all have the ability to control the ball on the ground. So you don't just need, you know, good starters. You need Big Ten depth, because you need to rotate your guys more, and you need guys that can sustain and last throughout the course of the entire year.
Your dad's a terrific coach here, of course, for the Chargers, and I thought, you know, well, I thought he got a raw deal myself. But what's the most valuable lesson you took from your father in his coaching career?
You know, I used to go to work with him all the time, and, you know, the best way I can explain it was I just sat back and I just observed. I just got a chance to watch him interact with the staff, interact with his players, how he handled adversity. And I just think that there's things that pop up now for me on a daily basis, and how I respond or how I react to those things a lot of times comes back to how I saw my dad do it.
Can you name a keep an eye on this guy member of the defense that if USC fans either not familiar with him, haven't seen as much of him, keep an eye on this guy?
You know, I don't like singling out guys, because I like talking about the group, but if I had to pick one guy, I'm going to say Devin Tompkins. You know, he's a guy up front from the time I got here to now. He's probably our most improved player on defense. He had an outstanding spring. He played very well for us this past fall. but we're all just super excited just seeing the growth and the development he's had this offseason and how that's going to translate in the fall.
I've been looking pretty closely at not this year's recruiting class, next year's recruiting class, the 2026 class, which is right now ranked number one in the country. Tell me what your role has been and how that class has come together.
I mean, this class is going to be a special class, and I know that, everyone's advertising that it's the number one recruiting class in the country, and I don't really get caught up in where we're ranked. I just want the right kids, from what they can do on the field, but then who are they off the field? And I feel like with the new GM, Chad, and the scouting department being aligned with the coaching staff, we've been able to go after not just in talent, but going after the right type of kids that we want in this program. And, you look at every single kid in that class. These are all kids that, you're super excited to coach, and this is why you come to SC to coach kids like the kids in that class.
How much has recruiting changed, like when you're doing it right now in the world of recruiting versus back in the day, like when you were being recruited or just early on, stuff like that?
Yeah, I feel like I have a slight advantage just because I haven't coached in college that long, so I'm just adapting. But going back to when I was a player getting recruited, it's changed a lot. When I was a player, it really came down to your family, your high school coach, and then you guys made that choice. Now you're dealing with agents, you're dealing with 7-on-7 coaches. Kids are taking a lot more trips earlier. So by the time a kid takes a trip to you in junior year, he's been to 30 other schools all across the country. So they're just exposed to a lot more, which makes it way more competitive.
In your mind, what is going to make a successful season for USC this year?
Improvement. We have the same goal this year that we had this past year. Let's be better next year than we were the year before. Only way to do that is to be better today than we were yesterday. So we just try to take it day by day, and we know that if we just keep that approach every single day at the end of the year, we're going to like where we're at.
All right, man. Hey, listen, we're going to send you a Lionel Richie album so you know a little bit of his past and some of his
Start
music.
With the greatest hits.
Start with the greatest hits, and we'll go. Maybe you'll do some dancing on the ceiling, and we'll be all set. Hey, listen,
I appreciate that.
Coach, we appreciate you coming on. Super excited about this year, and I'll see you out at the Coliseum, man.
Fight on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
There's Coach D'Anton Lynn. And, somebody mentioned he's